Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Our topic today is censorship leading to world government, falling of the dollar, and civil war. It's kind of interesting how these topics come up. Like, for example, dollar fall and civil war. I was going to try to get to that in the last program, and I guess it was a good thing that I didn't because I ran across more information confirming it. Okay, so first of all, I want to remind you that if you live in the DFW area or if you are coming to visit, we invite you to come and visit the Spirit of Prophecy Church. This is where it's located. Of course, here's Fort Worth, Dallas, and we're right up here in Plano. And here's all of the information. You can pause and get that information. Love to have you. This is the difference between our churches and our churches. First of all, it's a real church. It's not a 501c3 government corporation. We do not teach or believe in a pre-trib rapture or using other kinds of Bibles. We teach the whole Bible, and we're not just positive encouraging. We're trying to help you prepare for the things that are coming. Now, also, if we get removed from some of the places we are, I have to pick my words real carefully, we strongly recommend now, wherever you're watching us, that you switch to either prophecyclub.com or download the app. This is what it looks like to make sure you get the right one. And it's no charge. Phone call comes in, it pauses. After the phone calls, it restarts. You can choose either audio or video. Also, if you've not already, we encourage you to subscribe. That tells the algorithm to send it out to more people. Also, if you want to be blessed in the hereafter, then we'd recommend you join Prophecy Club because God says He's going to give us thousands upon thousands of souls. If you want to share in that, and you do, then we recommend at least $9.90 a month. You can give more if you like to on an automatic payment. Click on that little QR code. It'll take you down to it. Enough of that. Let's get on to today. Now, some people may be saying, especially if you're more worldly, you may be saying, well, why do you guys have so many dreams and visions on the Prophecy Club? Well, two scriptures say so. It says that in the last days, that God is going to pour out the former rain moderately and cause to come down the former rain and the latter rain in the first month, meaning that He's going to pour out His Spirit the closer we get to the last days. And the next verse says it directly. I will pour out my Spirit on all flesh. Your sons and your daughters will prophesy. Your old men will dream dreams. Your young men will see visions. So as we get closer to the end, God is warning us. God is speaking more and more. As a matter of fact, I remember in the late 90s, I had to pay a lady to scan through like 50 newspapers a day and cut clippings that had to do with Bible prophecy and send them to me. Now, I get more in a day than that lady would send me in a month. I mean, it's like a waterfall. It's not raining cats and dogs. It's like a waterfall, how much information we're getting, all having to do with the last days. All right, let's get into what we're talking about. So the first thing is that word I can't say. In other words, where they're trying to shut you up, okay? This is from the World Health Organization. And that's all you need to see right there. The next thing I want to point to are these words. So they're strengthening, there's some words I can't say here. That's already, censorship is already taking place, all right? Anyway, so it says that in the future, starting January 1 of 2024, they're going to start tackling false and misleading or misinformation or disinformation. Well, who's the judge of misinformation? Because we would say Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but by Him. But other religions would say, no, that's misinformation or disinformation. We say, no, that's the most important information. See, so who's the judge of that? So as the devil takes over, you can expect more and more of those people disseminating truth to be in trouble. And then on down it goes, it says, including social media, this is where we are, and to counteract misinformation, disinformation, false views. In other words, if they don't like what you're saying, they'll just shut you up. I remember it was, who was the famous patriot that said, I may not agree with what you say, but I'll defend to the death your right to say it. I'm trying to remember what his words or what his name was. Well, anyway, the point is, if we get taken off, you should start switching from wherever you're watching now to a way to where you're going to be able to find Prophecy Club. Here's another confirmation of shutting down free speech. T-Mobile is to fine customers $500 for inappropriate words. I can't even say some of this stuff. So it is beginning January 1, 2024, they're going to start fining people that saying things that they don't approve of. Now, they give a list, but you and I know that can be pretty broad. So who gets to determine what is and isn't shut down? They do. All modes of a bandwidth fines can range from $2,000 a certain down to $500. In other words, count on it. Coverstone said it, another dream, which I'm not going to cover right now. But yeah, it's coming. Now let's jump to dollar fall. Now, we all know this, so I'm not going to read all of it. I just want you to read the part in the outline here. And that is July 10, 2012, he made a DVD for Prophecy Club, which you can watch at watchprophecyclub.com. He said he saw a man reach down and pick up a fistful of dollars. He said it's raining dollar bills. It's almost like they're worthless. Associated with this, he saw the dollar begin to be devalued until finally it was worthless as leaves blowing in the wind. And he saw that a New Madrid fault earthquake would be associated with that. And that's exactly the same thing. Here, I wasn't prepared to show you this, but I think I can pop to it real quick. That's the same thing that Chris Reed saw. Chris Reed saw that, first of all, the dollar drops 30%, inflation, food shortage, all of that's part of it. Riots, civil unrest, we'll get back to that. Then he sees Israeli-Palestinian two-state, a major earthquake in the middle of the United States. So, you know, if we look at it, and I've covered this many, many times, so if you're watching Prophecy Club on a pretty regular basis, you know we've covered this stuff before. Okay, back to Shane Warren. He also saw incredible changes in the prices of currency. I saw silver, not gold, but silver, begin to drastically increase in value, skyrocket, far more than gold, what he said. Which, by the way, for that, we'll send you to prophecyclubgold.com. prophecyclubgold.com. As a matter of fact, I think it was like Thursday of last week, I did an interview with Jonathan. Go there and watch the interview and you get to know him. Anyway, great guy. Anyway, he saw it was literally war. I mean, it looked like civil war within our borders. Well, as you know, 27 states said they're standing with Texas. And there's also now a whole parade of a bunch of probably mostly Christians, but definitely people that want to see the Constitution held up. And they made their way down to the southern border. Well, you know, if there's an infiltrator among them, and if there's a bullet fly, if it hits the wrong person, all of a sudden, we could be in a civil war. Just like he said, he was told this back in 2010. It is also associated with a devaluation of our currency. So, I mean, how many times do we have to be told this? Then in another time, and I'm saying this because it's important for you to remember these three things. One, he saw civil conflict. I believe that happened 2 years ago. Civil war, I believe that is in the early phase of starting now, and I think he'd agree. Then invasion. Got it? Civil conflict, civil war, then what we know is a Russian invasion. All of this is now in progress. And I believe that 2024, now God has not told me this exactly, but I believe 2024, we're going to start seeing a lot of stuff we've been warning about for a lot of years. It'll start coming to pass. He said, we'll go through a dramatic change in our government. Well, you could say that happened when Trump got in. There'll be a time of anarchy and chaos. That's in the past. For a while, we'll have a fractional government. We haven't seen that yet. Basically, the government come down to the state level because the military will have to step in and seize control of our federal government. Remember what Dmitry was told. The fall of America will start with an internal revolution in America started by the communists. What is the definition of an internal revolution? It's when the people rise up and take over their government. Normally, it's an armed battle. I'll say it that way, as in bullets flying. We haven't seen that, but there's a high probability it'll start 24, 25. I'd like to see it more like 27, but probably 24, 25. Anyway, You'd call it a coup, but in all honesty, it'll be to help our nation. That tells me that the bad guys are in and the good guys have to rise up and kick them out. He said, I saw lawlessness, chaos, civil unrest. He also was told that when the checks from the government stop coming to the people, the chaos will ensue. So if you can see that the dollar's devalued, all of a sudden we lose our wonderful wealth, probably overnight, as several prophecies say, then all of a sudden they have to cut off welfare and, as my mom used to say, Katie, bar the door. Iraqi parliament calling to ditch dollar for oil trade. Imposing sanctions on Iraqi banks undermines and obstructs the central bank. And efforts to stabilize the dollar exchange rate and reduce the selling gap between official and other rates, meaning forcing Iraq to use another currency. So what America is doing by these sanctions, we sanction Russia, we sanction Iraq, what does that mean? Now, most people probably don't understand what that means. That means that if you want to sell your wares on the international market, and every country does, you can't use the dollar anymore. Well, if we couldn't use the world currency to sell our wares around the world, what would we do? We would start another currency system so that we could trade. Well, that's what Russia and that's what Iraq, and now some 41 other countries are in the process of doing. Now, I think it's all set up. I think there's evil people in our government that is trying to bring down America. Why? Because they want to put their Antichrist, their man, on the throne. Let's go on. So the Finance Committee affirmed its, quote, rejection of these practices due to their repercussions on the livelihood of citizens. Call on the government and the Central Bank of Iraq to take quick measures against the dominance of the dollar. What are they saying? They're saying we are going around the dollar. We don't like these sanctions. We want to be able to sell our oil on the international market or anything else. And we don't want the mean old corrupt American government saying we can't. So they've started a new currency system. At last count, I believe there's 41 nations, but I've got an article today that's further confirmation these nations are, in fact, switching. Washington imposed sanctions on Iraq Al-Huda Bank this week under claims of laundering money for Iran. Okay, so this is additional sanctions. Well, they put on so many sanctions to where the country cannot exist without finding another way to trade. They're going to trade. You understand that? They're going to trade. So if we cut off the use of the dollar, they just come up with another one. And that's exactly what they're doing. BRICS, 20 nations join Russian payment system to ditch the dollar. Perfectly, exactly what I've been saying. Indeed, the country had said that its alternative to the SWIFT already has more than 159 foreign participants. Okay, it didn't say countries. But these, okay, all right, try to imagine, let's say Boeing, that sells aircrafts, and they sell them to pretty much every country around the globe. Well, what if America would have said to Boeing, no, you can't sell any more airplanes outside of America? That's kind of what we're doing to Russia and to Iraq and other countries. For the BRICS alliance, finding a way to challenge the Western payment system has been a key aspect of its infrastructure. Subsequently, Russia's system for transmitting financial messages could be the alternative. Indeed, Russian central bank governor has announced a recent BRICS discussion. So they've just started a new system. They're going around the dollar. And what does that mean? Well, when a nation doesn't need the dollar and they're angry at America for the way America has been treating them, like they've been treating just about all the countries out there, then all of a sudden they realize, wait a minute, we don't need all these dollars on hand. So they start dumping the dollars to get their money out of them. All of a sudden the value of the dollar drops, boom. The prophecies say 30% overnight, from 30% down to 50% to 66%. Finally, they're worthless as leaves blowing in the wind. As a matter of fact, I had one of our congregation members come up to me last night and say, I cannot tell you how many times I've had a dream of people walking down the street, walking over $20 bills, wouldn't even take the time to pick them up. Get ready. Russia's SWIFT alternative already has 20 countries joining. Okay, so this is the new system Russia's coming up with. They got the money to do it, okay? I mean, they're the number 2 oil producer in the world. They were number 1. Anyway, for much of 2023, the BRICS Economic Alliance has sought to increase its de-dollarization plans. They're openly going around the dollar. Both Russia and the newly invited Iran have suffered from Western sanctions. Well, la-di-da. You know, if we hadn't put the sanctions on them, probably this wouldn't be happening. So you can say evil people in our government are doing this. So we're shooting our own self in the foot. Moreover, the other countries are fearful of similar actions against them. Therefore, the bloc is seeking to combat the overall global status of the greenback. So, the Biden administration is killing the dollar. Russia's central bank governor spoke to other BRICS nations about the development. Russia has a system for transmitting financial messages, which is an alternative to the SWIFT system that America currently uses. Similar infrastructures exist in other countries. We're holding discussions on the interaction of such platforms, but here the interest and the technical readiness of our partners are important. Thereafter, adding the nations who have already joined it to 159 participants. So it's a matter of time. I think what God is doing is raising up Russia, giving her the money, giving her the technical and the military and everything it takes to destroy our nation. Why? Because our nation has become the habitation of devils, the hold of every foul spirit, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For she say in the heart, I sit a queen, and I'm no widow, and I shall see no sorrow. Therefore shall her plagues come. And one day, death, mourning, and famine, how she shall be utterly burned with fire. For strong is the Lord God who judgeth her. Revelation 18. SWIFT is an international interbank system that transmits information and makes payments between 11,000 organizations in every country on the planet. Yeah, but Russia's doing something about that. But Russia's alternative is seeking to fulfill a mirroring function, but without the over-reliance on the U.S. dollar. This, and the BRICS Payment Initiative launched last year, should continue to aid its de-dollarization plans over the coming year. And my point is, the dollar's going away. If you've been listening to Prophecy Club for a while, you've been getting this from a lot of different people. News sources, dreams, visions, angel visits, audible voices. I told you about the one lady, she says, you know, I do a cooking show. I'm not a prophet. She said, but I woke up this morning, I heard the audible voice of God say, buy long-term storage food. We got 14 of those. I don't know, maybe 15 by now. The point is, if you're listening to this, if you have not made food preparations, how can I say it nicely? Shame on you. Shame on you. You haven't prepared. I'm going to suggest again, do what Joseph did. The world lived off of wheat for 7 years during the 7 years of famine. Remember Pharaoh and Joseph and the pyramids and all that? It was wheat. josephskitchen.com. That's where I'll send you. I started the company. And my daughter runs it. I think God started it because he wants his people to have food when no one else does. josephskitchen.com. All right, let's talk about Secede. Now, I touched on this briefly, but it's a real sticky wicket. It's getting lots bigger and lots better. I have a little 50-second clip. I'm going to play it for you.
We can see 2 busloads of orphans being unloaded the other side of the border here.
Pakistani orphans where, according to our information, busloads more are expected to arrive today.
Does anybody here speak English? Kill America! There's nothing left of it anyway!
They've blown up the Statue of Liberty.
I'm ordering you to remove this roadblock.
My orders come from the president.
Snap has just learned that America is on the brink of civil war.
The federal troops have attacked! There is war! The second civil war has just broken out!
That is why I'm closing the damn border.
So you can see, we're not the only one that's saying civil war is coming to America. Did they know something that we don't know? Terry Bennett, 2010. Let me remind you, civil conflict, civil war, then invasion. Then, 13 years ago, he said, an angel walked into the prayer meeting with a star in his left hand. He raised it up and told Terry, this is the Lone Star. Then he said he saw a map of the United States with black and white flag with 50 stars. And the angel said the Lone Star State will be the first one to come off the flag. I can tell you, having grown up in Texas all of my life, I spent, 20, 25 years in Kansas, but most of I would call myself a Texan. Even when I lived in Kansas, I was a Texan, you know. I cannot tell you how many people are displeased with our government down here, and there's a lot of talk. There's a lot of talk been for a long time in Texas, and we are self-sufficient. We got our shooting arms, and we got good leadership, and to most Texans, it would not bother us to pull out of the United States. The attitude of most Texans is, we don't need the United States. The United States needs us. So my guess is we're probably looking at Texas seceding from the Union in short order. I mean, this thing down here with this border, as you can tell, Governor Abbott is fed up with it, and he is well liked in Texas. Anyway, let's go on. So he said the Lone Star will be the first one to come off the flag. Then he says there's 50, no 49. He kept reducing the number of the stars that fell off the flag. The current operation in Texas has a name, Operation Lone Star. Then, 2020, at 1:56 into this talk, he said a wolf pack of 15 rogue states will leave and separate the United States. At 2:22 into the talk, he said Nevada will secede from the Union, California, Washington, Oregon. A little later, he said God helped and enabled President Lincoln, and he will help and enable President Trump. He says Trump believes in Christ. So here is another confirmation. I've hit it many times, so I'm just going to hit it. If you're not familiar with this, you should stop and read every word carefully. Okay, so anyway, what we're looking at is the first three say the dollar is going to die. There's going to be a food shortage. Then there's going to be riots, civil unrest, just as Terry was told back in 2010. Then they will give the Palestinians a state. Right after that, there's an earthquake that hits the middle of the United States. As a result of that, many states will secede or pull out of the United States. Federal government's going to be in chaos. Military finally has to step in. As Dimitri was told, the fall of America will start with an internal revolution in America, started by the communists. Well, what is the communists? Probably it's the border, letting all these people come in. The military takes charge as uncertainty looms over the federal government. Then a new dollar. And it says, a new currency for a renewed nation. I think it's America struggling, trying to cleanse itself of the of the filth. But the problem is, most Americans don't realize that it was Jesus that raised up our nation, saw our nation through many battles that could have defeated us. Jesus made our nation. Now we've turned from him, so it's Jesus that is pulling our nation down. Revelation 18, the whole chapter is talking about America. Let's keep going. Thinkers outside the United States say civil war in the U.S. is inevitable. Second American Revolution has begun, Benjamin Fulford says. The official defiance by Texas Governor Greg Abbott of illegal orders coming from the fake president marks the opening shots of a second American Revolution. You know, if go and do a search for Civil War, American Revolution, and you will be shocked at how many opinion pieces. Now, they're opinions. That's the difference between us and Prophecy Club, okay? See, Prophecy Club is able to tell you what the prophets say. Everybody else is just opinions. Why? Because they can't recognize the voice of the Lord. They don't know when he's talking. But that's what here at the Prophecy Club, that is our call to do. The move by Texas and 27 other states to send the National Guard to the Mexican border in defiance of the illegitimate regime. In other words, guys, We are at the door. We are at the door of what Dmitri was told August 3rd, 1984, the fall of America will start with an internal revolution in America. I do not think that the Civil War is the internal revolution, but I do think it leads to it. Just like taking a puff of a cigarette doesn't make you a chain smoker, but it is the first step, you see. Taking one whiff of marijuana doesn't make you a heroin user, but it is a first step. So the Civil War we're seeing now in Texas, Civil War, I even said it. What we're seeing is the starting of a civil war, which is the beginning things of an internal revolution. Then Leslie had a vision, 2021. She heard the words, you, talking about America, you become the divided states of America. You become the divided states of America. Now, I guess I'll go ahead and read this too. The divided states of America will be exactly that. It will be a line drawn in the sand. You're going to know who's on the right and who's on the left. There's several prophecies, including Dmitri was told, that the time would come when it would be obvious the difference between those that are saved and those that are not. See, right now, the tares still look a lot like the wheat. It's not until the harvest time comes that you can see the difference. That's another confirmation letting us know last days harvest is just about here. Some Christians have been following the wrong person the wrong way because your family did it. That's what you do. You do it. He says, the Lord says right now America is divided. It's divided for a reason. There's a division in the home for a reason. I'm going to skip that part. Go on to the next one. 2020. Tommy Aromi, and I'm not a real big fan of him, but this he got right. Many will say how the United States of America has become the divided states of America. But I will raise up sheep and goat states, sheep and goat counties, and there will be talks of secession and unionizations. Ancient alliances will break and new ones will be forged. They will taunt and jeer and say how the United States has become the divided states of America. It's happening. Things that we've been watching for 20, 30, and a few of them 40 years. We've been watching for the fall of America start for 40 years, at least I have. 32, 33 years, something like that. Since 1987, whatever that is. A new party forms from within. A war has already begun in the heavens and the earth will reel and shake. Are you ready? Let me say, the first thing to do is ask Jesus to forgive your sins. I don't care what God you've served in the past, or what church you've gone to, or what church you don't go to. The most important thing to do is say, Jesus, forgive my sins. You don't have to close your eyes. You don't have to bow your heads. But you do have to say it. Jesus, forgive my sins. Then say, Jesus, be my God. And then start getting your King James Bible out and reading it. Find yourself a church. I started to say a good church. But, matter of fact, let me tell you a story. We had a couple that was a founding member of our church back in 2006. And they were with us for many years. And then something happened. I'm not going to get into that. But anyway, they sought greener pastures. And they were gone for several years. Well, a few weeks back, they came back. And after I got on bringing the sermon, I walked over to shake his hand and everything. And he pointed to the podium where I was just standing. And he said, Dad, he said, you can't get that anywhere. He said, I'm not talking about you can't get it very many places. He says, I have looked. We have visited many churches over these number of years lately. You can't get that. No one is saying that. No one is bringing that kind of information. He says, I don't think there's a church in the land that's bringing that kind of information to their congregation. Their congregation is not prepared. All they're getting is a bunch of fluff, feel-good, cotton candy stuff. He said, they're about to be hit. They're about to be hit hard, and they are not ready. I'll invite you to the Spirit of Prophecy Church. I'll also invite you to get yourself prepared. Let me talk about our 3 sponsors briefly. First, if you want to get gold or silver, we're going to send you to 800-200 Gold or prophecyclubgold.com. prophecyclubgold.com. Second, if you want to get long-term emergency food, the only place I would send you to is josephskitchen.com. It is what I believe is God's long-term storage food. As you recall, Pharaoh and Joseph, what fed the world for 7 years was wheat. Most of your long-term storage places, $9,000 to $10,000 to feed one person for 1 year. Joseph's Kitchen can show you how to do it for about $1,000, one person, 1 year. And EMP Shield. If you want your car to start, if you want your computers to start after some kind of nuclear event, that's the device to get. And if you go to empshield.com and use the promo code PROPHECY, get your $50 discount and help your Prophecy Club.